allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. We'll determine a quorum here with a roll call. Councilor Baumgartner is coming, I believe, but absent right now. Ebers?
Here.
Ferguson?
Here.
I'm here. Paternos?
Here.
We do have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order and beginning the meeting with a public forum here. Just members of the public who are here to talk about the refuse RFPs and also the Willow Avenue shed. This is not your time to move forward unless you have some other business to talk to us about. We have you down later on in the agenda. So now is not the time for that. But if you do have, if anybody else from the public does have some business to address with the council, now is the time to do that. Speaking will be limited to 3 minutes, and we do ask that you provide your name for the meeting record. Anybody from the public wish to address council at this time? Not seeing anybody in person.
No one registered.
Nobody online as well. All right, we'll close down this public forum and begin the regular meeting again with the approval of tonight's agenda. We've been issued the agenda here. I had plenty of time to look it over. Any discussion? Call for a motion to accept or approve tonight's agenda.
So move.
Second.
Keepers. Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Paternos to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda's been approved. We do have a proclamation ahead of us here. If you bear with me, I will read it out loud here. In 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th to be National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which that date falls as Police Week. And National Peace Officers Memorial Day and Police Week pay tribute to the brave local, state, and federal peace officers who currently risk their lives every day in the line of duty. And tens of thousands of citizens and law enforcement officers from around the country participate in planned events to voice appreciation for all those past and present who serve their communities with pride and integrity, and to honor those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. And locally, the American Legion Post and VFW Post express their thanks and support to honor all police officers in our country. Therefore, be it resolved that I, John Hawkinson, and the City Council of Olivia, Minnesota, do hereby proclaim May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and that same week to be Police Week. All right. In front of us, we have our consent agenda. Also, obviously, just want to personally thank the police department in town here. We are really blessed to have you folks protecting us day and night and just making it a safer place to live. Okay. In front of us, we have the consent agenda. Included in that is the minutes from April 15. We have a couple step movements for Craig Magus and Dustin Stonke. We have the hiring of seasonal part-time worker for Public Works in the Parks Department. We have hiring of a SMART member. That's the Advanced Rescue Team, Kyle Smith. We have 2 gambling permits, one for the Fraternal Order of Police and one for Olivia Firemen's Relief. And we have a resolution authorizing the city of Olivia to zone areas surrounding its airport. We have a confirmation of appointment to Jack Carlson to the PUC. Joint Powers Agreement update. We have Chapel Central Maintenance Agreement for Olivia Public Library. We have the Electric Department purchase order, Olivia Regional Airport project quotes, and April disbursements. Call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made by Baumgartner, seconded by Ebers to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries. All right, we'll move down to discussion items. First on the list of discussion items is the Bold Baseball Association and the Willow Avenue Shed. Go ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Ask you to state your name for the meeting record and maybe pull that microphone nice and close so we can capture all your voice data.
I'm Mike Nagel. First of all, I want to apologize. I think I was supposed to be at the last meeting, but save you guys an extra couple minutes. So basically, I am here to talk about the shed that was purchased by Ben Fisher north of the tracks behind Casey's. I had informally talked to a few people about, hey, this would be a nice civic project to work on. We could utilize it instead of having all that wonderful steel just being thrown away. So, but before we came to any conclusions, Ben bought the building. So I called Ben and said, I'd really like my building back. And he goes, well, I'm going to use it and so and so. Well, so about a month or two ago, he decided that it was too costly for him to move the building and do everything. So he was just going to tear it down for scrap. So I'm coming here to ask the city council if there's a few options. I did send kind of a little synopsis for you to look at. Option one is obviously just tell me to pound sand, the building's sold and we're done and you're out of it. Option two would be to give Mr. Fisher his money back. And then the Bold Baseball Association would take over administration of the facility where it sits. And the city would be responsible for getting infrastructure to the building, owning the building, insuring the building. We would take care of the cost to renovate it. The project that we're looking at doing is creating indoor hitting facilities, possibly golf. Uh, uh, Kathy Aline has talked about she needs a place for Bearcat training. So it would be AstroTurf facility where we already have all the stuff to go inside it. It's currently either we have one pitching machine in one building and another one out at a farm north of town. So we really have all the stuff we need. It's just to raise the money to turn it into a nice looking facility. Now, I do believe that building is sitting on an easement of the railway. So if the city wants it moved, that's fine too. We would take care of getting rid of it or bringing it over to Bird Island. And we already have a lot that the city has given us where we could put it and again, make it a bold project where we could go ahead and have a facility where kind of I see it like a SNAP, where you just swipe a card. Maybe the kids get free cards during the school. Adults pay $10 a month. It's not going to be a big amount, but it's just an added, I think, enticement for people to hopefully want to live here and come here because we have it's just another additional facility. So that's basically, as I see it, the three options. So I'll be happy to answer any questions or whatever you need from me. Thank you for organizing this too, by the way.
I like the idea of being in Bird Island next to the field. That's where I see it.
Well, after talking, I don't know if it was either you or you, Landon, as far as that it's on the easement that you want to get it off of there.
Mhm.
It saves us a lot of money because we don't have to pour a new slab and we don't have to try to transport the beams. But I think we have people that can do it. So my problem not so much is it's just a matter of how long can we leave it there? Because now if the city agrees to give it to us, I'm going to need some time to raise money to move it, but that's what I like to do. We've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars for the baseball field. It won't be a problem. That's one thing we have around here is very passionate people that I think are willing to help in a small community to make our little town as productive or as inviting as we can to other people to move in. So, but it's not going to get moved tomorrow is what I'm saying. So I don't know if you have an arrangement with the railroad as to when that needs to be gone or how that works.
We don't have an arrangement with the railroad. What's current in the current purchase agreement with the owner is that it must be moved by early June. I believe the exact date is June 5th. The shed has been paid for. So when the purchase agreement was executed last year, we did receive payment. The shed has been paid for. But there is a date in that contract that it must be moved in June. So that's up to you all about any type of extension.
Do you have any timeline?
It wouldn't be moved this summer, I don't think. I mean, right now I'm trying to get the field ready for the state baseball tournament that's coming in August. So that's my top priority. Now, if somebody comes in and says, boy, this would sound really good as, you know, Ferguson Fieldhouse, you know, or whatever, something that, and they come forward, then that would make it a lot quicker. But I think realistically, it would probably be, we would start looking at moving it in the spring, or it would be late fall. This late, just depends on how everything goes. We've got people that are willing to help us move it. So it's kind of beggars can't be choosers. That's the beauty though of the baseball association doing it, is we can build a facility for 1/10 of the cost, because I go beg and they'll come and do it for us instead of having to pay. So the only thing I'm asking the city for is approval to have the building. And then obviously, if you're interested to help us, would be to give Fisher his money back so that that saves us some costs. And then it would be again, a community project, which I think our communities could use.
Any other comment?
I just have to say, the city has not actually discussed this with Mr. Fisher. The assumption has been that
Yep.
Dr. Nagel has discussed this with Mr. Fisher, but we have not, and we have a purchase agreement with Mr. Fisher. So that would involve, obviously working with Pam, our city attorney, to look at that purchase agreement to see if we need to void it, transfer it, and again, we have received the money.
So the deal is done.
Yes.
So essentially we'd be buying it back. We wouldn't be.
Yeah.
I thought we weren't buying properties anymore.
Oh. I said that $20,000 ago on this particular property and it wasn't received well,
So here's what we gotta do. We can spend a half an hour and complain about decisions that were made 2 years ago. Or we can look at a new situation and be productive and have a conversation about that.
So I have no problem with extending our deadline for moving it at a minimum, because there's no real need to have it moved anytime soon. The railroad hasn't complained or anything. It was just a pest problem, I believe, and an eyesore. But I don't want to invest any more money into this property than we already have.
Would you be able to work with Mr. Fisher to strike out your own deal with him since he is the owner?
Oh, for sure. I'll be quite blunt. Then this isn't a community project. This is us taking care of everything and working with the city of Bird Island only, which I think is, I'm sick of it being Bird Island, Olivia, Bird Island, Olivia. This is bold. I live here, the Gasses live here, the Dollar Shells live here. And we all are part of that facility. So we'll do it, but I would be disappointed.
I understand your disappointment there, Dr. Nagel, but so we are here to represent the citizens of Olivia.
Yep.
And I do understand at a greater level that when we take a look at community as being the bold community, there's a whole lot of value and benefit there. But we do also have to understand that we are representing a lot of people who aren't associated with baseball at all. And we are asking them to invest their money to a facility in Bird Island. So that's where my heartburn comes from.
Yep. Totally get it. And I'm not sitting in the hot seats. You are. So, I just need the direction of how you want me to proceed and, um, um, we'll go from there.
Would the council consider a stay on the removal of this property while we at least look at what a number would be to keep it and utilize it as a community asset inside the city limits?
Our city limits?
Yes.
I thought the entire point of buying it was to get rid of it because it's like, I don't even think we could issue a permit to improve it as is
But
because
that
it's
is
sitting
not
not
there.
on our lot.
Okay.
It's sitting on railroad property.
A
That's,
corner of it is on the railroad, so the
Mr.
goal would-
Mr. Mayor, Council? May
Yes,
I
ma'am.
ask, if, we could invest, so it sounds like not the entire property's on the easement. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. It's a small corner that encroaches on the railway easement.
Okay, so, we could reach out to the railroad and again, I don't know how easy that is. Sometimes I have trouble tracking those folks down, but we could, ask for a license to encroach for that very small portion of that building on that easement. So that is something that we could look into. I have no idea as far as time that it would take with respect to that.
Just so you know, if that would happen, then it would be the city's building to
No,
ensure.
sir, nope, we don't own that building anymore. So that's the
Okay,
whole, we can certainly look into, if the
Maybe I
railroad
didn't-
would be interested in doing a license to encroach, and then the council can have the discussion whether they want to make some kind of financial investment in getting that building back. But I mean, the first step is if we have to get that, and I wasn't with the city when this initially was being discussed, but if the whole purpose was to get it off somebody else's property, then we need to figure out whether we still have to do that or not before you'd want to have the next step of conversations if you wanted to
Right.
leave that building there, so.
Just more background on the situation, Pam. This is not something that was leveraged upon us by the railroad or anything. This was a proactive step that we had identified to move it off that easement. So it's not like our head is in a vice, so to speak. Can I say that?
say whatever you want.
As my suggestion would be, seeing if we can extend, I'd be fine with extending it a year to have it moved as of right now. That gives us time to get with the railroad, figure out what's going on there. Talk to Fisher, maybe he'll donate it to you. Yeah, it's not a community thing, but
No.
just like John said, we represent Olivia
Yep,
as the city council of Olivia. We're not the Bold School District. We're not
totally get it.
Baseball Association, although I support those groups 100%.
Right.
But as John said, we have to look at Olivia.
And I've talked to Mr. Fisher that that's not negotiable. So, cause he can just tear it down and sell it for scrap and that's probably what will happen then. But just so you know, if you were gonna look into getting whatever she said as far as ability to encroach on the site, we would not be owning anything. This would be the city of Olivia's baby. We don't own the baseball field in Bird Island. The city of Bird Island owns it.
Sure.
If we move that building, it would be owned by the city of Bird Island. They would insure it. If we add on here or fix it here, the city of Olivia would own it. So if that's not something you want to do, you don't want to move. So Bird Island will already do sewer and water and electrical to the building itself and own and insure it. So, that's what they will do. But if you wanted to keep it here, that would be part of the agreement.
Sure.
The city may not want to own property while the baseball association is in no such position to insure or own property either. So I don't want you to go through a bunch of work to talk to the railroad about keeping it there if you're not interested in doing all of those infrastructure improvements.
I think that'd be a simple conversation to have with them. I think that'd be a couple quick email exchanges probably, and perhaps we could get a rough idea from our internal guys on what infrastructure piping would be, just so we have, if it's crazy, then we have our answer right away. And if it's something
Doable.
that deserves a lot more discussion, then we go down that route.
I don't really have a lot of interest in having a building where it's at under our ownership at all to begin with. So it's just my opinion.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm all in favor of it, extending the timeline out as far as getting it moved. That's doesn't cost us a dime or anything.
Right.
So
But we don't need to make that decision right now, because if we extend it, trying to help the doctor get it for the baseball, that would be an exception we were making only for you. And then if we extend it now and then you don't end up getting it, and now we extended it and now it stays there for another year, not going to the baseball, I think we can make that decision at a later date, whether or not we're gonna extend it.
He's got to destroy it by early June.
That's why I'm saying, if
Oh.
it's not gonna work out for them, we should know before then.
Absolutely not.
We might need to give.
There's
him-
no way I can figure out if I can raise 250 grand in a month. That's why when you said, when would it be moved, it would be, this is gonna take me
No,
some
but I'm
time.
saying like you could have your answers about how everything is gonna be. I'm not saying having it moved.
Oh,
We would extend it out for you.
sure.
But if it's not gonna happen, I don't wanna extend it out another year.
Well, we're also keeping the current property owner on the hook with this hypothetical situation. So I think I think he would deserve to also have a little grace with timing as well.
Would you like me to get some estimates on infrastructure to the building as well as reach out to the railroad and bring it back for May 20th?
Whatever we can do internally for. Yes,
Okay.
please. Does that sound correct, council?
Yeah, it's just there's kind of an information vacuum at the moment, so it's difficult to
Sure.
make a decision.
Do you want to come back?
I would love to.
Thanks.
And you'll send me an email like you did today. That was
I will.
wonderful.
I don't want you to
I'm
feel
good at
disheartened.
reminders.
I hope
Hold
you
on.
can understand where we're coming from. Like, I totally want to provide assets, as much as possible.
Please don't feel that that's the case. When you do things like we do, there's a lot of times you run into a closed door and then you just have to turn and go a different direction. And that's fine. I've been working on that project for 35 years. So it's not like it's gonna change. It's kind of my hobby. So I'll just keep working on it however I can. And hopefully it'll be sooner than later that if we're granted this, now I know where I stand, whether the city wants it here or wants it gone. Sounds like gone is the consensus. And I do think there's not a lot of parking in that area, whereas it would go right off of 13th Street in Bird Island, right behind the new scoreboard. So there's a good spot or a home for it to go. I just would hate to see, the cost, $250,000 worth of steel sold for scrap when we can reclaim it and use it.
Sure.
And we've been looking for a building like that for a long time. So
Just as an aside, maybe it's none of my business, but is the 212 organization involved in this at all?
the 212 is kind of underneath us.
Yeah.
Like when they need a mound or they need our baseball association pays for their pitching machines, the portable mounds, that we do all of that.
Okay.
So we're not we help with this, and now it's the baseball and softball. So we help with some of the softball stuff too. So it encompasses if Bold needs new bats and they don't have it in their budget, they come to us.
Cool.
stuff like that. So we pretty much help out town team, Legion, Junior Legion, and 212, and school sports. So when they need it or ask for our help. So.
And I just want to clarify, I'm getting direction from council to what it would cost to keep the building where it is in Olivia, or are you also directing me to figure out what it would cost to move it and maintain it in Olivia? What exactly is the full scope of the ask?
I think the most responsible direction would be to see if we can get a little grace from the railroad on that. What was that term you used, Pam?
License to encroach. an
License
easement.
to encroach.
Yep.
And keep. Even
Keep it
though the
where it
parking
is.
Isn't awesome there, I get that, but that's probably the only practical way if we were to look at it.
Okay.
Compared to moving it.
So keeping it where it is, the infrastructure, potentially remodeling, all of those different costs.
Yeah, well, maybe we just start with the infrastructure.
I think what all I would need is just the stuff to get to the buildings, water, sewer, electricity. As far as once it's to the building, I'm not assuming any dollars from the city would go towards re-siding the construction inside. That would all be on us.
Kendra's here. She'd probably just throw out a number right now.
I'm not gonna put Kendra on the spot. I will follow up with Kendra after this meeting, but we don't need to put her right on the spot.
I would love to, Mayor, but I would like to say no, thank you.
Okay.
One, I don't really know where this.
We do need to make a decision on whether we extend the order to remove.
You can make that decision on May 20th if you want.
Yeah, we've got enough time.
Like to table this till next month,
And also that also would give you
Next
time
meeting.
to.
or next
to-
meeting, I'm sorry.
You'd also want to touch base with who we actually have the agreement with,
Yep.
because
And
that
we
the
need to talk to
extension
Trish.
would be with that person.
Great.
If we're gonna make him, if we're only gonna give him a 2-week turnaround to tear that thing down, can we at least give him a month then? Right now?
I think 2 weeks is plenty of time to tear that shed down if he wants to. He's had over a year.
Good enough? Thank you, Doc.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.
If you had any idea or could put together a loose timeline on when you would be looking to move it, that would be helpful to know too.
I will do the best I can, but I would
By next
say,
fall.
yeah, we'll see. I'll do what I can.
Okay.
So, and I will be talking to Mr. Fisher. Do you have his number?
I'm sure we have it somewhere in the city,
Okay,
but
if
I'll
you
reach
need
out
it,
if I need
yeah.
it.
Otherwise, I'm gonna call him and let him know kind of right now, because every time we kind of have meetings, he wants to kind of know where we're at.
Great.
So I'll let him know. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay. Next item up for discussion will be the seal coat project for 2024.
And that is Kendra.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Appreciate that. Oh, I'll share my screen if you're ready for that.
Throw me out here.
Sorry. Well, their payback, I guess. Do I have to do anything? I connected it.
Is that you? Is
Nope.
that your screen? No. Okay.
I gotta make it complicated, I guess.
That's all right. So everybody at home will be able to see what we're talking
To be able to just do that. You plugged it in?
Yep, it's all plugged in.
is the cord.
Why don't you get on the floor?
Well, this is plugged in.
Yep, I'm supposed to be able to go to Tower PC presentation and that should be coming up right there.
But you're online though.
I do have a few paper copies, but it's not gonna help.
I don't know what's going on.
You're gonna have to share screen.
On my Zoom.
On your Zoom, you gotta share your screen, yep.
That one.
And you guys are here with me.
Share screen.
Share screen.
Entire screen, yep.
Right?
Can you pick Microsoft Edge tab? Go up. Sorry. Right next to window. Where it's highlighted.
Oh, yeah.
And council packet.
Right there.
Share.
There we
There
go.
you go.
Okay, what page are we on?
Oh, scroll.
Near the bottom.
50.
Say about halfway.
50. Landon's saying.
Let's see. Yeah, for people who don't like.
All right.
If you could keep going.
Okay.
The next one.
Yes. Okay, so Seal Coat 2024, the area shown on there in the orange is going to be the area that is proposed for seal coating for 2024. We have, it's all north of Highway 212. So we have Evergreen, Walnut, and 7th Street, and then a couple 11th, 10th, and 9th Street, and a few, or I think maybe all of the city-owned parking lots. We're also, or a few of them are included in the seal coating. This is something that we do every year. The first map that Jody had up there showed the plan for the entire city. This is just the area that's slated for this year. We did other streets in this neighborhood last year, so this would just be continuing off of that. Fairfax has also joined in seal coating, and they have done that over the last 4 or 5 years with us, or with the city of Olivia, as far as getting work done at the same time. It tends to help out with the contracting price. So based on this area that we have highlighted, the city of Olivia's portion comes down to just a little over $120,000. And that's typically what we've done in years past, is kind of right around that. And that's our engineering estimate. If it comes in lower, sometimes the contractors will allow you to add more streets if you would like to, or just leave it as what is planned. And Fairfax does the same thing too. I think last year they added streets after the fact. But it would be something that we would just need city to approve SEH in assisting the city for quotes on the project, since it is under that $175,000 threshold. We would not have to advertise, but we could just send out the information to the known contractors who have done it in the past and see what they would give us for an estimate for the work to be completed, and then award it to them based on that. Given the timeline, we would give them till May 28th to submit the quotes to City Hall, and then we would present it at the June 3rd council meeting to award it to the contractor. And then typically they work it into their schedule throughout the summer. In the past, we've always stipulated that they can't do it during Corn Capital Days. It has to be either 100% completed before, or they have to wait to even start until after. Typically in the past, it's been done after, so usually August timeframe is when they've done it. But I guess I'm just here to present the area of seal coating for Olivia. I don't know if Fairfax is probably in there too. Not that it matters for the streets that they're doing, but it was just part of the packet. And then, but the cost estimate is in there as well. So the total project for Olivia and Fairfax is about 160 or $155,000. But again, Olivia only pays what Olivia's having done, and then Fairfax would pay for their portion as well. I guess, do you guys have questions on the seal coating or areas that are presented? Okay. I guess with that, then I would just need the authorization for SEH to seek out quotes for the project.
Make a motion to allow SEH to seek out quotes.
I'll second it.
Motion on the table by Ebers, seconded by Ferguson to have SEH go and acquire quotes for the seal coat project 2024 as highlighted in the packet. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Ken.
Yes. And then I'll hang out for the next one. So then it brings us to phase 3 of the trail. This is either Safe Routes to School or Active Living, whichever you prefer it. I have been involved with the park board in narrowing down the location of the phase 3 of the trail. This was the one that seemed to be the most favorable. George has been in on those meetings as well. So it would continue from, I guess, the blue line that you see there just west of Highway 71 is going to be phase 2, and that's where phase 2 ends. And then we would continue phase 3 from that point. It would go along the south side of Pond Park and then go to the north around the overflow area that is needed for the pond up to Fairview, and then across Fairview Avenue north to Memorial Park. And that would be the final destination. In total, phase 3 is just under a mile in length. To give you an idea, that was phase 1 and phase 2 combined. So we're doing twice the length for one project. The reason being that this one ends up being so long is when you're applying for grants and you're looking at getting funding from state government officials, you want a beginning and an end destination. There's really no end destination in between that would break up from Pond Park to Memorial Park. I know that was a discussion that we had as part of the park board when we would meet too, is that was the point of going that full length. Now, with that being said, when you're looking at funding and you need to have funding available, if you are not able to get all the funding to complete that, then that's where you make that choice of, okay, we're only going to take it to Fairview, and then next year or in 3 years, we'll look at expanding it from Fairview to Memorial Park. But when you're doing that and you're applying for those grants, you're letting them know, hey, we can't afford the whole mile of trail. We can afford to go this far, and then we will be back to finish it. But they would know that that is your end goal, is to get from Pond Park to Memorial Park. With that being said, there was a grant that we came across, the city also at the same time as SEH, that was a last minute grant that we found out about. And we did apply with Elizabeth. I assisted Elizabeth with applying for that grant, and the city was awarded us, I forget how much.
$584,000.
So they were awarded that towards this specific trail. With that being said, with the trail and the grant that was approved, or that the city got funding for, construction and preliminary design needs to start right now, soon, tomorrow. Because the construction timeline for this trail has to be completed in 2026. That's the funding for the grant that was given to the city, is that it's a 2026 construction. So we would have to start the preliminary design, which would mean getting our surveyor out to do any survey of the area. And then we would have to do, a few of you have been through the process for phase 1 and phase 2. So with phase 1 and 2, we had to do the CATEX memo, which is a categorical exclusion for improvements that are being made to wetland areas or any sort of city improvements and things like that. You have to go through memos and you have to make sure that you're not impeding on wildlife, or, for example, on phase 2, there's a bat that resides in trees in the city of Olivia, and we had to cut trees down before they came back for the summer. So examples like that are things that we have to make sure make sure that we're addressing, and that we're not doing anything to any endangered species or a wetland in the area. So we have to go through all of those reviews. And it's going to be the similar situation for this one because it is state and federal funded. So we have to go through that, and that takes time to get all those reviews that are done. As you can see, we're kind of adjacent to a cemetery. There might be some questions with that there would have to be an additional review done to make sure that we're not going to be digging anything up that is unmarked. Not that we're really impeding on the cemetery. You can see we're on the south side of Fairview, but we do have to kind of cross the driveway into the cemetery and then go north towards Memorial Park. So not a huge encroachment in that, but just, you never know. You never know where you're going to find certain things. So I guess
Happened to you in the past?
not as an engineering working in that field, but I'm from Western South Dakota, and one of my teachers, they were building a house and they found an Indian burial ground that they did not know was there. So it's a thing. It happens all the time.
It doesn't end up well for the house, does
No.
it?
It does not. So no, I have not seen it in this, but it's just something that the gentleman, Sam Turntine, who helps us with our CADX memos, he has seen it come up as it needs to be reviewed, and not necessarily that they found anything, but they have to do
The box.
the probing and they have to do all of that. So it might not necessarily do we know if that's going to come up or not, but those are things that Sam and his team will look at. And that also takes time. So we have to take that into consideration. I think there might be something that looks like this.
Yeah, if you scroll down. There you go. Timeline?
Yep. So if we go through a timeline of the project, so knowing April of 2024, the city was awarded funding for the trail. And then to have the construction completed in 2026, these are the steps that we have to go through. So preliminary engineering to be completed would be May to June of 2024. So we would get our surveyor out and we would start the preliminary design. In June, we'd also have to review the area for land acquisitions. So there was one area just on the south side of Fairview where the trail is outside of city right away. So we would have to look at acquiring that land, and it would be the same way that we did for phase 1 and phase 2 with Larry and also the church. So we'd have to get an easement for that. Depending on, this is a new landowner and we've never worked with them, so I don't know what their feeling is of the trail to that nature. But so we'd reach out to them and work on getting land acquisitions and getting that started now. So we'd have to do that. And then the next item down would be the environmental documentation, or the CADX memo. And that's what I was discussing that Sam and his team does. So they would go through all the environmental reviews to make sure that we're following state requirements in that. That can take approximately a year to get all of those reviews completed, because there's wetland delineations that'll have to be done. They look at endangered species that might be living in the area, like the bats that I referred to earlier. So all of those things, and it just takes a little bit of time. But while they're doing that, there are still other things that we can also be completing. So we would complete the appraisal of the land that would have to be acquired in July of 24, and then finalize the permanent and temporary easement documents August to September of 2024. We would bring to City Council in September the preparations of final plans and specs. So it would be the same thing that we did before. So preliminary design, and then we'd go into the final design of the project. So, and then from September to November of 2025, SEH would complete the final design. We would submit the project memo, and we would have a 90% plan review with city staff. We would submit final plans to state aid, and then also to City Council for approval. We would present final plans and specifications to City Council on March 2nd of 2026. We would advertise for bids, and then that would be March 13th to April 14th. We'd have to advertise for that. And then we would open bids on April 14th of 2026. We would award the contractor April 20th of 2026. If there's any on-site project review or construction previews that we would need to do for residents, I know there's not really residents in the area, but if there's any need for that, we would hold that in May, and then project construction in June of 2026, and having substantial completion of September 15th of 2026. It's a very tight timeline. I'm not going to lie about that. We've done it with phase 1 and phase 2. So if we look at phase 2, as far as when we started, similar tasks, we've completed them in the same amount of time. So it's not necessarily out of the question, but like I said, we'd have to get started right away in order for us to do that. Which then leads me to the cost of the project. I think that's in there.
Yep.
too. Yep. Okay.
Scroll
Nice.
down.
Perfect. So this will be the estimated cost of the project. Like I said, it's about a mile in length for the trail. And we are anticipating the construction cost, project related cost to be just over $1 million for the trail. With that being said, we have the $584,000 that was given to the city of Olivia for the grant. That only contributes to construction cost. That does not contribute to any survey or engineering work that has to get done. It is strictly just the construction of the trail. And that's been the same for phase 1 and phase 2. So nothing is different from past phases of the trail that have been completed. So then looking at the estimated cost, we would have, it shows the cost eligible for funding. So that construction is $880,000. So the $584,000 would be attributed to that. And then the city would be responsible for the remaining balance. And then we estimated the easement area that would be needed on the south side of Fairview to be about an acre. If we take into consideration the cost that we were seeing from phase 2 of the trail that we just got appraisals done on, is about $15,000 per acre. So that would be a cost that the city would inquire. And then the project related cost is about $225,000. And that would be the engineering to do the final design plans and specs, for having an inspector out on the project, everything that would be related to the project. So then the city's cost outside of construction is about $240,000. And then if you figure another or $300,000 for construction, that would have to be covered. So you'd be looking at about $540,000 if you assume that it's a $1 million trail, as we are estimating. The costs that we're looking at are based on the costs that we were seeing for phase 2. And that would be, I guess, each line item, if you look at it, how it's broken down. Those costs are from what we're seeing for phase 2. I guess, do you have questions to this point?
Does the current grant that we won only work with this specific route?
So this is what we presented to them. I think if there was a different route that would want to be done, we could maybe present that to them, but we would still have to have everything completed by June of 2026.
So I'm saying to shorten it to
Oh,
make the
sure.
cost smaller. Would that be a strategy we could? And then
Seems
go
like
the final
you
quarter
run it
mile
into
or something.
Fairview, and you can walk on the road then to Memorial Park, you know?
You can. I will tell you that there's not a lot of walking space on either side
It's
of Fairview.
travel, but
Yep.
it's also light. travel.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, if it was something that you wanted to, I would be a discussion that Elizabeth and or myself would have to have with the people that we presented the plan to make sure that that is an option. I don't know why it wouldn't be, but again, that would be their.
It'd be pretty interesting to see, hey, can we just take this
Of
halfway?
phase 2. Yeah.
So now you're putting me on the spot, George. Thanks. So you'd have 20%. So the city has to match 20% of construction in the same way. So we have 300, I think it ends up being about $100,000 of construction cost. But then you also have the engineering cost that goes along with it. But construction, I want to say was right around $100,000. Because it was $470,000 was our estimated cost for phase 2, and the city was awarded $384,000.
This grant a safe routes for school thing? This was
So it's
It
a
was
carbon
not.
reduction program
Okay.
grant.
And this being fairly unpopulated area, probably wouldn't be a safe routes to school thing.
So there are a couple of different funding opportunities that may come available next year for us to apply for additional grants to help cut that cost down. But none of that obviously is guaranteed because that's in next year's funding cycle. That we will certainly be trying for all of these grants. One thing I can say really positively is when we were presented with this very last minute 11th hour, SEH worked really hard to get us the information that we needed, and we were the only city who applied, and we made their deadline for the other city who applied for 2025 funding. So we were the one who applied for 2026 funding. And I don't know what amount might drop if we shorten the trail, but we can certainly explore.
Right.
that
That would be something that if the project itself is lessened in any way, shape, or form, they might say, okay, well, if you're gonna do that, then we're only gonna give you $300,000 or whatever the case may be.
Sounds like we'd be putting somewhere around 5.5
Mhm.
or $500,000 at risk, right?
Correct.
Which doesn't taste very good. So when you say
So
we need to make a decision now, just 2 weeks from now, count as now?
I mean, it can. Time is of the essence, I guess I will say with that. With that being said, I understand that it is a lot, and that's kind of, we were given this on a Wednesday and the application was due Friday at noon. So we were racing to get it done and put together before we really looked at like the timeline of it and how quickly funding would have to be acquired from the city. So I completely understand needing to take extra time to think about it. And it was something that even I had the discussion with Elizabeth. I'm like, okay, now that we have this money and we know that we got it, let's talk about a timeline and how quickly
things need to happen.
things need to happen. I will say, I think 2 weeks is fine if you guys want to table it and discuss it and we can have the final decision. Yes.
Actually, I mean, I don't want to think about it. I want
Sure.
I'd like to see if we could
If we
See,
reduce the length or the scope of the project.
stretch
Yeah,
the
and then
percentage of the project.
And then would that reduce our funding that we get, or would we be able to maintain?
Right. And that would be a question for the MnDOT folks who awarded the grant.
I can reach out to them. That's not a problem.
Thank you.
But yeah, so then if we can lessen or shorten the length of the project, I would assume it would go just north to Fairview and then kind of stop at that point, with the understanding that at some point it would continue to the west to Memorial Park if that was decided at that point in time.
Shortening it change how much you have to spend on engineering and design, or no?
It does.
We wouldn't have to buy farmland.
Right, you wouldn't have an easement. As far as the engineering part of it, I don't know. I mean, it's not going to cut it. If you cut it in half, I don't think it's going to cut that in half. To be completely honest, there's still a lot of extra work that you have to do, considering that it is a MnDOT project. A few extra hoops we have to jump through for them. I will say it does not change anything with the CADEX memo. That does not change that amount of time, regardless of, it seems to be size that we've seen over the last couple trail projects that we've done. We've needed the same amount of time for them to complete all of those reviews. So that likely isn't going to change. Survey needs won't change, things like that. So probably not a huge reduction in cost for that, but
Thank you.
yes. I also have paper copies. I didn't know if you guys wanted them, but we kind of got in a fumble with the computer, but
Computer.
otherwise, any other questions at this point? I guess I would just say that I guess I'll come back on May 20th with the information that we have from MnDOT. Okay.
Either in person or virtually, your
Yep.
choice.
Yeah, I can, I only hear super positive things about the trail system and its expansion, you know, as a whole. But it'd be cool to see if we can still leverage a fair amount of this grant and maybe bite off a little bit smaller of a cost to us as citizens.
Ending it at Fairview. I just want to make sure I understand the scope.
Probably the logical ending point here, huh?
Okay. Yeah,
Either. Just want to make sure.
That's a third of it off, I would say.
Yeah.
But then could you just paint on the road, make it kind of carve out a walking spot?
Well, it's a gravel road. It's not paved.
Any pavement goes to gravel right away.
It's not
I thought,
very
I thought it went all the way to the cemetery as tar.
Well, but even if, yeah,
No, I recently walked it and I couldn't tell you actually where it turns to gravel.
That bridge is gravel yet.
But the bridge is a lot further.
They're just past the cemetery.
I don't think I think
It's
I think
really,
it
really
stops
rough.
before the cemetery and it's gravel past the cemetery.
So I think that's right too.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Absolutely it is.
I wouldn't paint on the road in that condition.
Yeah, it's not, but it's not
It's,
wide
got
enough.
some
I
red
don't-
in it.
right,
It's like
the road
dry
itself.
condition.
If
I'm
you,
sure there's regulations on what the width has to be. For the
yep, if you cut that and tried to do it as like an on-road shared path, you would make Fairview a one-way street. And then you'd only have one direction of traffic.
Yeah, yes, it's like
Yeah.
I can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, it's an option, but again, it's not a very wide street. And then if you did do it according to MnDOT and ADA compliance, you'd have to make that a one-way street in order to get the, what's that?
Over the top of the road,
Yes, or we could do that.
Vegas style.
I mean,
Okay.
that sounds great.
Okay.
Any other
We will
questions or
table.
comment for Kendra?
Thank you, Kendra.
I do have, if you don't mind, I just want to give a quick update on Depew.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that they're out there rocking and rolling, and I don't know if you guys have had questions or concerns or comments from residents. They're working on removing any concrete that needs to come out, and that should be done either today or tomorrow, depending on rain. If they don't, whatever still needs to get removed, if it's not done today, assuming that they don't get rained out, will be taken out tomorrow. The replacement of the concrete, so the alley aprons and any curb and gutter that needed to be taken out and replaced, should be done by the end of the week, again, weather permitting. And then they're also working on the grading and the seeding, or I should say reseeding of the area. I would say the second half of the project that was done. So I'll be looking mainly at that. I believe the first half that was seeded has established quite well. But they'll be looking at that. And then we still have not gotten a date on the final layer of bituminous, but once we have that, I can update you. Maybe I'll have that in 2 weeks, or maybe it will be done. I don't know.
Concrete that's coming out, is that new concrete or old concrete?
So the concrete that's coming out is, I guess you could say, new concrete. It was done or put in as part of the project. At the alleyways, the concrete that's coming out, because the alleyways were not put in per design, we want the city and SEH designed them to be wider for snow removal and things of that nature. So that's being fixed. As far as concrete, curb and gutter, and any sidewalk that's being removed and replaced is more than likely because it was cracked or something over the winter, which is normal. I mean, you kind of have, it goes through that first freeze thaw cycle and you let the ground underneath it kind of settle a little bit more. And you'll see some of that in the first year. So that's just part of the construction project. And we anticipated some of that. We also had extremely hot days when they were pouring concrete, and that could affect some of that as well, of why it cracked. But that would be strictly curb and gutter, sidewalk, maybe a driveway panel, like a residential driveway panel here or there. If they're replacing any of that, is just warranty work that they're doing. But it's something that is anticipated. Anything? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next discussion business item. The refuse RFP. We have representatives from both of service providers who submitted proposals. I personally will not be able to add any discussion here because I do have a professional relationship with one of the vendors, but I will help facilitate the conversation anyway. In no particular order, does anybody want to address council about your proposal?
I'll defer to the junior.
All right. All right.
First of all, I'd like to thank Olivia and the council for going up for RFP and letting us participate and offering you a proposal. We're a small company out of Redwood. I grew up in Redwood. So did my brother and my nephew. Had a lot of tough battles with some bold wrestlers from here. So it brings back some sore memories. But no, it was good. And then so I'd like to talk about some of the main points in our RFP would be our truck sizes. We run smaller trucks. They're 3-axle trucks. So they're lightweight. So the rear loads we run are 35,000 pounds empty, and they can only pack about 8 to 10 ton on. So max weight is about 55,000 pounds. And I spoke about it a little bit on the RFP, but I'm not going to bore you with like how roads work and the axle and the pounds per square inch on the tires and all that. But it plays a big factor on the roads. And I know that Olivia was looking for, that was a big option or a big issue that you guys were seeing with the road. So we really wanted to give you a solution in that way. Another thing that we offer is because it's a rear load, we can service both sides of the street at the same time. That will become super helpful in the spring when you have road restrictions. Obviously, road restrictions usually aren't on the public streets, but they still affect public roads like that. So having a one pass down the road we won't be driving close to the concrete where the tar meets the concrete like the other trucks will, and we'll also be making one pass on the road, so about half the traffic. So that'll be super useful. And then obviously, I'm sure you saw the numbers. We're quite a bit cheaper. Our costs are down. We don't have a lot of the overhead costs that a lot of other big companies have. And I mean, that's pretty much us. I'd like to defer any questions to us. We have a lot of experience in this industry. I picture myself as a public servant, not a public speaker. So I'm gonna apologize for that right now. Super nervous. So yeah. Any questions that I can answer for you?
Do you service any cities in whole? Do you
Yeah.
have-
Yes. Right now we have the Echo contract. That's only about 120 residents, but that's the only city contract that we've pretty much been able to bid since we came up last year. We service a lot of the area, the rural area around here. So we are up in this area Tuesdays and Fridays already. So that'll be super useful for like the commercial stuff. Because we're already in the area, so that'll be good.
Do you have, is there any concern about not being able to service us? Do you have backup?
Yeah, there is no concern to be able to service Olivia. It's pretty much one day, and right now you're on Wednesdays, and that's actually our lightest day. We only have 3 time a week customers on Wednesdays right now, and they're right in Redwood. So we pretty much have an open day for the city of Olivia residents. So that'll fit really nicely. And then obviously we have plenty of staff. We have a big family, so it works really nicely that way. Yeah. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I didn't touch on because
Yeah, my computer died, so I can't even look at the right now.
I think you said that you'd do like half the city and then you'd have to go dump and then come back.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
Like during inclement weather, have you run into where you can, you maybe get a quarter of it done in half a day and then you have to go dump and then
Sure.
you gotta come back, or do you have another truck that can come?
We do
and
have
haul
2
it in?
trucks. We do have two, and we're working on getting the third one. That's the other truck in the bid that's actually a curbside. So that's that one we're getting to also do the rural residents because we offer rural recycling in the area. So it'll pick up trash and recycling. It's got a split body in it. So that will be another option. So we'll have 2 rear loads and 1 curbside. And to answer your question about inclement weather, when you're doing in-town city stuff, inclement weather really doesn't slow it down a ton. So that's really not a huge issue. If we were thinking it might be, or if it's bad enough, we could just use 2 trucks also.
Okay. Yeah, I was more concerned like with the weather, if you have to drive all the way down to Redwood or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah,
That might
if
take a while.
we saw that, it'd be smart to use 2 trucks, we would just use 2 trucks. We have enough people to be in 2 trucks too, so.
Sounds good.
Yep.
What is the size of your workforce, roughly speaking? Like, I understand that you're a small company and anything, but if we're gonna be a large multiple more than Echo, obviously.
Yeah.
I guess I do just have concerns that you'll be kind of
Sure.
have enough flexibility and manpower to get everything.
Sure, yeah. We have currently 3 licensed CDL. I currently do all the billing, so I'm not in the truck that much. But if we need, my wife has 10 years of experience in billing, so she definitely helps out. And if she needs to, she can step up and do the billing. This is my nephew behind me. He's driven for his entire adult life. I've been in the industry pretty much my entire adult life. I've been on like 10 years, and my brother the same. He's been in here 25 years. I mean, we have tons of experience. We know what we're doing. Olivia, like I said, it's really just one day's work. So it's not as, it's a really nice contract, but it doesn't take as much work as it might perceive to take. I mean, it's 1,000 homes, but it's still like one day's work. So we're thinking we could pick it with 8 hours pretty easy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Elizabeth, you might know too. With the recycling, West Central's contracted for that, right? Because that's through the
Grenville
county.
County, yep.
So either way, every other week, we're gonna have West Central and Sweetman if we were to go with Sweetman, right?
This is not recycling at all. That's
Yep.
still
Yeah,
handled
yep,
by the county contract.
And that would be an entirely different truck.
yep.
Any other questions?
May I add something?
Sure, yeah.
Should I come up to the?
Sure, yeah, please.
There you go.
So for all of our trucks, we run standard cabs. So the difference, I've ran cab over before, obviously my other experience. And so, all your cul-de-sacs, you have a lot of dead ends in this town. This town there's a whole bunch of cul-de-sacs, all that kind of stuff. Those cab overs, when you turn on it with a steer axles, you can watch the movement of the tire because you have all that leverage weight and everything else. So that's why all your cul-de-sacs are normally kind of busted up. You can see where they're kind of breaking apart. It's from all that weight turning right there. Versus our standard cab, our weight is extended out in front of us. It's not, so all it's supporting is basically the engine. It's not supporting the whole front end of the truck. So it takes a lot of the weight off of it. And with Crotto cans, which is what West Central runs, which is the overhead or dumps over top of themselves, you have all that leverage weight out in front of you. So you got to think all those carts are dumping up there. That's just adding more and more weight right there. So when they're turning those cul-de-sacs, it tears it all apart. Just to help save you guys in the expense of streets and.
Elizabeth, could we know that our streets are being degraded?
Public Works has mentioned the wear and tear of heavy trucks on streets, on like the curb route and things like that. So that's something I have heard mention of when I started here in August, that heavy trucks are really difficult on streets, and figuring out a way to, work with our service provider to, explore options in the future, while we're making these heavy investments into Pew Avenue and other streets to try and get the most out of that investment.
And we work very close with our communities. I mean, we give a lot of time to them. Like the city of Redwood, we worked on cleaning up their whole downtown. That was a big donation of ours, just because those old buildings started to get cluttered and stuff like that. So we love working with the cities, try to make our communities shine and sparkle, and try to entice more people to come in and join us. Yeah,
and that actually brings up core capital days in my mind too, where that's a heavy refuse day. We have a lot of people coming into town and all that. So if you're willing to
Finish the parade off.
finish the parade off, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we love stuff like that, and kind of like your guys' walking paths. Why not have carts out there for people with water bottles? I mean, you can throw them out there, and then if anything, if you guys have like a golf cart or something, you just wheel them out, and then we can dump them quick, and just stuff like that. We love working out and helping the community. We want to be part of the community. We don't want to just service you guys. We want to be part of it. We want everyone to think of us as one of you guys.
What about people that don't use your service but live in Olivia? Will they be charged?
We don't have, so I think you're referring to like the minimum charge, the $4. We didn't put a minimum. I don't know what your guys' is like city ordinance, if you have to have garbage service or not, but we felt like if you didn't have garbage service, you shouldn't be charged for it. So we didn't put a minimum in for like a drive-by fee or anything like that.
And to add on that, so like your guys' dumpsters for all your commercial, we also don't have a rent charge on it. We don't have a separate rent charge, as you can see in our bid. All of our stuff is included. We like to have one simple bill. We don't want everything drug out super far, for just nice and simple and clean and neat. And our trucks are, I might be a little biased, but our trucks are a lot cleaner versus like windy days and stuff like that. You're not going to see trash blowing out of the top of us because we're not lifting our cans way 14 feet in the air. So we don't have all that wind. I don't know what word I'm looking for here, but anyways, the wind.
All the loose garbage blowing
Yeah.
from the winds.
Because
especially
not
high
everyone
winds,
bags
yeah.
their garbage. We all know there's a few times where you just scrape your food scrapings right in the trash bin, whatever. Yeah, ours just dumps right in the back, recycle it. There's no overhead dumpage at all. So keep your streets looking neater, nicer, and yeah, it all adds up. I mean, people like their stuff being neat.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Well, welcome, my council, mayor, staff, attorney Whitmore. Appreciate the opportunity. Jeff Bertram, West Central Sanitation, Don Williamson and Taylor are at a waste conference, and they send their greetings. They apologize for not being able to be here tonight, but a lot of good questions. And, I don't want to get into a lot of details about the weight, but we will talk about that just a little bit, just because of what was said. And the one thing that I just want to really share on behalf of all of us, some of us team members are here. We have many employees in Olivia that have worked with us. Don Williamson serviced, and when I say Don Williamson serviced Olivia for 45 years. Yep, it's West Central Sanitation, but he's personally taken this very humbly and very personally. We've known a lot of the administrators and council over the years, and of course, it's difficult sometimes to keep on top of all that, but we certainly will continue to do a good job of doing that and reconnecting. Possession, they always say, is 3/5 of the rule. We're your provider. We've gotten at least 5 contracts that have gone out for bid that have within 5 minutes renewed us. We've only lost 1 contract in 45 years, municipal contract, and that's Echo, and that's where they live. So good for them and good for the city if that's what they chose to do. There was certainly no ill will or ill feelings with us at all. Relationships are what this world is all about, or at least it used to be, and it still kind of is, but that can change. But you look at what you do in your own personal life, who you took your car repair to, who you used as a carpenter. It's the relationships, people you can trust, and that whatever it is, you're going to be able to make it happen. In 4 decades, we figure we had 3 price adjustments in four decades. There isn't anything you're doing today personally or publicly that you can say that. And I want to believe, and Don and Taylor want to believe, second generation of West Central Sanitation, which is exciting. Taylor's like a nephew to me. Don's like a brother to me. And it's great to see that second generation. This isn't the flavor of the day for us. This is what we do. And the experience, I kind of couldn't help but smirk a little bit. The experience that you hear, it was our experience. They all worked for us for 11 years. And so whatever the experience is, we want to believe that we really created that an environment to do that. We have customer service people. We have the drivers. We have the mechanics. We have the full bore of top to bottom. We're in and around all of the communities around here where we can come bop in at a moment's notice. Again, those relationships mean something. Having the same company do the recycling and the garbage, I can tell you, we do McLeod County, we do, again, Arswa, Redwood Falls, and Renville. Short conversation, unanimously renewed, and we're proud of that. And again, to have the same company do the garbage and the recycling, less confusion. If there's a problem, you know, we're the company that's in truck. 37 years is as far back as I could go, and we could not literally come up with any complaints. We could not come up with any complaints on service or no, we got calls and said you missed us, and we went right back and we serviced them, and so that certainly is in play. We had buildings in Olivia for a long time, paid property taxes, and I remember when the storm came through and we had to replace the building, but we've had that and supporting the community. Certainly Councillor George knows this firsthand, all the donated services that we've done over all those years. We donated everything to the Corn Capital Days, the last truck in the parade. Again, that's not just a new invention. We've been doing that forever, and we'll continue to do that. The truck weights get a little bit more difficult. You know, just because somebody says the truck is lighter doesn't make it lighter. I mean, there's reality. And plus, we want to have that conversation with you again. I think we earned that to have a conversation of renewing the agreement and to those kind of discussions. We've got more trucks, and again, for the record, we own them. Don Williamson owns the trucks. There's no lease trucks. There's no risk of losing a lease or losing a financial relationship. He owns them lock, stock, and barrel. And you want a smaller truck or a different style truck, Don made it very clear to me on the way up here. You tell them whatever truck they want, that's the truck they'll get. So again, we didn't know that that was a concern. And in the cul-de-sacs and everything, again, I'm not going to pretend that I know who is doing what where, unlike some people. You've got FedEx trucks, UPS trucks, school buses. We have more axles. We have 4 axles, and we have more weight distribution than any of those other, you know, FedEx will come up and down my street 10 times, and UPS and all, they've got no axle, no weight distribution. They're turning in those cul-de-sacs and everything else. It is what it is, but we certainly want to have that conversation with you. When we get to town, we're almost empty. We pick up 75 stops before and we do that intentionally. So we're empty when we come to Olivia. Again, we certainly want to have this conversation. You went through your, you know, I think you did that for a reason. And, you know, it's having been a city council member for 8 years on the League of Minnesota Cities Board of Directors, I know exactly where you're at. You know, I had checking prices, you know, I always would check my price of the car or a vehicle I was buying in St. Cloud, and then I bought it at home. I knew what the pricing was. More times I paid more than what it was in St. Cloud, but I did it for the service and for the value of that. But you said qualified experience. Your proposal's not a competitive bid process. In the best interest of the community, who does submit the lowest, it is not going to be given to the solid waste hauler who does not submit the lowest proposal, the best value. And you said, you know, look at the town, look at the city routes and everything. We've serviced you for close to 40 years. We know the town, we know the routes. We have a lot of the same drivers that have been doing that for a long time. And then the experience again of the collection, we certainly have that, and have Don Williamson literally has hauled your garbage more than once in this community personally, and Taylor has. And I'll tell you, Abraham Lincoln always said the best fertilizer for the soil is the shadow of its owner. Don and Taylor have the shadow of the owner. He's got a lot of employees that have been with him for 30, 35 years that never took advantage of him. I'm one of them, 26 years. I've been with Don. He treats the employees, he treats the communities, and we're honored to work for him. The references, of course, we shared that with you. Look at the references mostly because of who's renewed the contracts, even recently, just in the last year. Those contracts were renewed for a reason, in my opinion. I think, two last things. You know, we all, my son is the executive director of the chamber in our community. And of course, we always say buy local. And when you say buy local, and he does it, he just bought a home, I do it, it's almost always more. It's always going to cost a little bit more if you buy it local, but people see the value of buying it local. I don't mind buying an $8 steak. I don't expect much. And when I eat it, if it's not good, I'm not disappointed because it's an $8 steak. But what bothers me is when somebody charges $15 or tells you that they got a $15 steak and they charge you $15 and it's an $8 steak. We're not an $8 steak. We're a $15 steak, and we're going to sell it for less than $15 because of our commitment to the community and the people that live here and everything else. So it sometimes seems like a harder decision than it should be. And I've seen council, I can count at least on two hands of communities that we were the highest price that they picked us the first time they bid it. Because again, Way Park, Avon, recently Osakis, for example, all paid us more because they experienced bad service. The last thing a city councilor wants to get is a call saying that they're garbage issues. You want to deal with a lot of issues, but councilors don't want to deal with garbage issues. And you haven't had to with us for a long time, for the close to 40 years. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, thank you so much for the honor of being able to service you. Don would have done a better job of presenting to you than I. And plus, when you're the owner, you talk a little bit, but he said, Jeff, tell him you're not the owner, but let him know that you're talking for me. So that's what I'm going to do. If there's any questions, again, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight.
Just so you know, these guys are looking at your RFPs. They're not texting or anything.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
Struggling.
yeah.
Well, when I was on the council, we weren't fortunate enough to have tablets yet. So that's,
Well,
I
your
get it.
paper doesn't run out of batteries.
I get it.
Yeah,
That's true. That's true.
any questions for Jeff at this point?
And you left it open, Mayor, again, for negotiation and discussion, and that's what this is. This is not a bidding process. This is not a final thing. And again, I hope that we deserve to have a conversation with the subcommittee of Public Works and Elizabeth and the council to say, okay, let's iron some of this stuff out. And if it isn't broke, don't fix it. So there are no questions? Oh, and on the weight thing, just to make it clear, we're ready and willing to talk whatever you want. Yep. Okay. That's probably more about garbage than you want to hear for another 38 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, we need to take some action.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Kendra. We've all had a chance to review the RFPs and we've listened to some presentations. We've had our questions answered. Anybody want to make a motion to take action?
That's all you.
I guess, has staff looked at these, and does the staff have any recommendations they'd like to make to us at all?
We've looked at them. I've called other communities along 212 who have had both service providers. Mostly they've all had good experiences, but these are cities that have both of these providers in their communities, not exclusive. So, Bird Island hasn't had any issues. Renville, whose contract is coming up in 2 years, will probably do a similar practice that we are doing, which is just the practice of opening things up for RFPs to be good stewards of residents. And then we've talked to Crystal and Granite Falls. So they, have 3 different providers at the table. So they've talked about some communication that needs to be worked out, organizing 3 different providers, which she said, you probably wouldn't have that experience because you're only doing 1 in Olivia. So that's kind of where the research that I have done is calling up city admins to get their just personal experience working with the providers. I didn't get a hard no from anybody, if that's what you're asking me.
Can I just throw this out there, and if it's a no, it's a no. It's just a suggestion. Is there any way we could not decide anything on it right now? Just because, from my understanding, there wasn't a lot of time to answer and sit, like he said, with negotiations or discuss what it is that we need, just out of I mean, I don't know. If you guys don't want to, I get it. I'm just throwing that out there. Is it a hard, we have to decide right now? And if it is, I'll go with,
Sure, well, we'll just ask the council, do you believe that you have enough information right now in front of you to make a decision?
I don't feel that way.
Okay,
I think it'd be hard to say either way. My guts is kind of go with what's proven and what we've had for the past forever, longer than I've been alive. But a lot of that just has to do with going with the smaller, newer company that I don't know almost anything about. So maybe more information would help for something like that.
What additional information are you looking for? Because you can say more information, but I need a staff direction on what to request. And Pam, weigh in here if there's anything legally I'm missing.
That's the only thing that I'd have a question about is, do we have actual data that says that heavy garbage trucks are causing street issues? Yeah, it's maybe a common sense thing, but sometimes common sense isn't right either, but
Sure.
I'd like to see some actual, if we have it, data on, is this actually an issue, or is it just somebody that's complaining a lot? Because I remember when I lived in a cul-de-sac a couple of years ago, we were suddenly asked to wheel ours out to the nearest street so the garbage truck wouldn't have to go through.
I remember that.
And that was something that worked. So
I said, did you do it?
no, absolutely. I wrote a letter the next day, actually.
Great. Pam, what can we legally do and advise in this situation?
Well, when's your contract up now?
July.
So, I mean, you have time. If you're thinking about, are you thinking, is the council thinking of going to offer more than one organized collection entity?
I don't.
Or-
feel
Because that
that's-
would probably take some analysis and probably would require addition, since it's changing the structure that was adopted by the city pursuant to the hearings, we would probably need to go through a whole new hearing process.
I don't believe that's the direction we're heading. I don't think it's a both and. I think it's an either or still decision to make.
If it's an either or, then, and you have time before under your contract before it expires, then there isn't any legal issues at this point for getting more additional information.
Okay, what other additional information would you like? Because more information is a little broad for staff direction. And I don't want to compile information that you all look at me and say, this wasn't the right information.
Well, I think getting the information we have organized better, like in a matrix, so we can,
Okay.
because you're reading this and reading that, and it's not in one spot, so it's difficult to have a compare and contrast.
I mean, one of the biggest complaints I get is the question that I brought up was, do people have to pay if they're not getting the service? And that's why I'm saying if we give you guys more time in the contract, so like if we give you guys more time, can you bring those negotiations to Elizabeth or, something like that? Or is it set in stone? We're not negotiating?
Mr. Mayor, Council. So with respect to more information that is regarding the weight of the trucks on the infrastructure, that would be information that would be relevant to your decision. With respect to what residents don't have to participate, that actually has an overlay of a statute, and that that and our ordinance as well, that every resident shall have some form of collection of waste from their residents. And if they don't, then there's a statutory process that they as a resident have to go through and work with the city to get approval that there is some other environmentally appropriate way that they're having their garbage or refuse disposed of, and provide that documentation to the city. So it's that burden is on the resident to come to the city and say, hey, I shouldn't have to pay for this because I dispose of it in an environmentally appropriate way and for us to review that and approve it. But under our ordinance, every resident shall have some form of, some method.
That has never been said in all the years that I've been on the council. We've had people come in and complain about that fee to the council, and that has never been the answer.
It's in the
Wow,
city,
thanks, Pam. That's awesome.
it's in the city code if you read it.
City attorney.
I've known that for years.
I have something that maybe should be brought up too, that has been issues in the past that we've gotten calls about is the availability of big dumpsters. And like if you're doing a house project and you need a big dumpster to rent, to throw stuff out, do they have them available? And if they don't, are we able to go through somebody else? Because as of right now, the town can only go through West Central Sanitation. We're not supposed to get a big dumpster from anybody else. But if they don't have them available, so that's been an issue that public has called about before.
So that would be something for like the negotiations part of it, maybe like release that hold, that if they don't have them.
So it hasn't stopped anybody in town from getting somebody
I know,
else.
but we've gotten calls that.
So
they
I
don't
don't
need-
think, I think once you pick a provider, we'll then work through, if on council's direction with staff, to work through that negotiation contract for things like that.
I could give some insight on that if you want to now, but I can also wait if you want to talk.
I'll chat with you. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take this, the rest of this conversation with the vendors offline and have Elizabeth be the point of contact there. So council doesn't feel at this point we have enough info to make a decision. Is that what I'm gathering?
Yes.
So to clarify, you would like additional information on hard data on impact of trucks to the roads. You would like the information that's been presented in the proposals organized in a more comparison and contract, so you can see kind of apples and oranges. We've answered that question, and then you'd like a discussion on, or me to dig into kind of the availability of big dumpsters and what happens if one's not available. Are there any other areas of more information you would like?
Can you include the statute, the
Sure.
city ordinance in that?
Yep.
Info, please. Just so everyone's aware.
I didn't see the weight of the trucks in the RFPs. Is that in there or?
We listed in our RFP, I think below the introduction, we listed the trucks and then
Yeah,
the
that
weights.
was in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I can certainly inquire about that information and get more specifics on trucks.
And it would, for us, it would depend on what trucks you want. And the weights vary dramatically. You pick a truck and we'll tell you the weight.
Sure.
And we own all our trucks and we have a full array of equipment and trucks. Trust me.
All right, we'll take this, the rest of this conversation offline at this point.
So we will come back on May 20th with additional information.
Thank you, both service
Cool.
providers.
I
We
will be in touch
appreciate-
with both of you.
Appreciate the conversations and the opportunity.
If there's anything you think of that would be important for us to know, please send it to Elizabeth so she can share it with us.
Perfect.
Okay.
We won't be offended if you leave now. You don't have to stay for the whole meeting unless you want to.
It brought me back to my old days. I feel sorry for you. So let's go back to the baseball discussion.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
All right. Electrical quotes for burying.
Mr. Mayor,
Pam?
Council, just also in the direction to staff, is this, and the city code doesn't address large dumpsters as far as having to go through the organized collection, or whether residents can independently contract for, construction projects. Is that something that you would like us to look into as far as in the report back at the next meeting? If it needs to be any type of ordinance tweaking?
I don't think so.
Like to add it?
Clarify.
Clarifying might not be bad,
Clarification.
but
Yeah, clarification would be great.
I would assume that an exclusive vendor would be part of the contract, if anything.
Yeah, it's probably just in our agreement with the service provider.
Yeah, so
Not
that would be
us.
something we'd want to identify,
Okay.
if that's
Thank
been a
you, Pam.
question. Yep.
Thank you, Pam.
Okay. All right. Electrical quotes for burying utilities.
Yes, so we solicited quotes for this project. The reason we're bearing utilities is of course because of the city hall addition remodel. If you look out where the police addition is going to be, there's a really nice pole right there. And there's of course the goal, we've discussed this with the electrical fund presentation, of burying more and more in our electrical system, keeps it safer, makes it last longer. So this is burying not only this block, but we're going north a little bit past B and D, and then we're going south and east on Fairview. So we solicited quotes for this project. Arvig was the lowest quote, so that is our recommendation for this project.
Have you all had an opportunity to read the quotes and analyze the
Yes.
differences? Okay,
That one was a lot easier.
Yes.
all right. Call for a motion to approve the quote from Arvig for burying electrical to City Hall.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Paternoss, seconded by Baumgartner to accept the quote from Arvig to bury the electrical to City Hall.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right.
Scroll all the way up.
Yes. Okay. Now is the time of the meeting where we listen to reports from the staff.
I have a couple because it's been a couple weeks since we've seen you all. So the one that has the memo in your packet is I will be attending the American Public Power Association 2024 National Conference, June 10th through the 12th. I'll be attending as an MMPA board alternate member. I have discussed this with our city attorney, and there are no gift law concerns pursuant to the exception statute of Minnesota Statute 471.895. So just as a heads up, the auditors have been here. Everything was going well. Everything is going well with our audit, and they have tentative plans to present at the June 17th council meeting. I'm gonna again stress the tentative nature of that, but that's our goal. Yep, that is Abdo. Oh, just a report, there has been a part-time worker at the Olivia Liquor Store who has resigned. They are looking for part-time workers. If you know of anybody who is interested, we are still taking applications for the Public Works Assistant Superintendent position. So again, if you know of people who will be good in that position, the Personnel Committee also gave me the thumbs up for a part-time summer intern. So we will be recruiting at the Bold Career Fair on May 15th. Building update for you, there will be a pre-bid meeting with Marcus Construction and interested contractors on May 20th at 10 a.m. They're coming to check out the project, check out the scope, and then bid opening will happen on May 28th. And then Corn Capital Days Incorporated, which is the nonprofit organizing Corn Capital Days, has just made their raffle tickets available. That's what I got.
They have a list of raffle prizes on the website?
They have a list of raffle prizes on the raffle tickets. One is a golf cart, 2024 golf cart. One is a grill package, and then a cooler package as well. Raffle tickets are $20.
Awesome.
So we're excited.
Where do you get them?
One of the places you can get them is City Hall. There are other local businesses who will be selling them. Olivia Liquor Store, I know, will be selling them. But that will be announced kind of on Facebook. They're circulating the different locations once they have those finalized. But I came from a Corn Capital Days meeting at 1:30 today, and I brought our stack here.
Awesome.
How's the Corn Capital Days meeting
Thanks.
go?
Good. We're hashing out. We hope to have the schedule released by the end of the month. We looked at t-shirt color options. Thank you to Next Step Creativity for providing some really great color options for the shirt. It was really fun to see the community participate in the design contest for the shirt. And I think what was selected will look really great. And then they're also looking at trying to figure out how to solicit a call for volunteers and figuring out what their volunteer needs are. But so far going well. I'm excited for my first one. I'm crossing my fingers it's only in the 90s and not in the 100s.
It will be either 100s or thunderstorms.
Okay.
So,
Excellent.
On between.
There's nothing in
I know what to prepare for. Perfect. That's what I got.
any other reports from staff? Chief, everything's good out there? Other chief, everything good out there? All right. Good to hear. Any reports from council?
Just my t-shirt idea.
Yeah, I like your t-shirt idea. We've talked about having maybe an official Cord Capital Days t-shirt and then maybe a more adult Cord Capital Days t-shirt.
To sell at the liquor store?
I
That
mean,
would be
it would be a very appropriate
I've
place
done
for
that.
that.
They used to sell their own.
Do we need to revisit the employment opportunities under notices and communications?
We certainly can. The city has employment opportunities for part-time workers at the Olivia Liquor Store, Public Works Assistant Superintendent, and then as well as a part-time summer intern here at City Hall.
Wonderful, thank you. All right. That's it, folks. Unless there's any other business, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by Pattern, seconded by Evers to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Right.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you very much, everybody. We are adjourned.